All right, welcome to episode 28 of the Crom Updates. I am joined today with Jason Schoonover once again, who is one of the 5 guest artists that I've had do Crom interpretations in pinup form for my upcoming Crom the Barbarian revised edition. At the end of this episode, I will be giving a very, really within the last 45 minutes update of where I'm at on getting the artist proofs out to all of the guest artists so we can then go and review them. But today, Jason and I are going to be talking about working together once again. This is our second or third, I think really our second time diving into it. Jason has scanned some materials and sent them to me. We're thinking Crom the Barbarian short story in comic book form. I initiated it with the story Sword of Welleran by Lord Dunsany. And Jason is definitely has some really great ideas. And so this episode, we're really just going to keep bouncing around and playing and pushing around stuff, to get closer to something without it being super stressful or weighing down. So,
we need to focus this laser a little bit.
Yeah. We'll get to it. But like I said, my thing here is I do not want us to feel a sense of stress in order to get something completed as if you, Jason, were working for me, publisher of said Crom Comics. It's way more about, can we take the medium of comics and can we take something as silly as a public domain character, Crom the Barbarian, and push it somewhere. And I believe you have really pushed us somewhere. So I'm super excited today. So I'm going to drop this back on you, and you just go ahead and start giving us the lowdown of what you have.
We had talked before about, playing with the idea of I'm really into conspiracy theories and UFOs and cryptids and stuff. But playing with the idea of the, adapting Crom to the story of the Giant of Kandahar, which is, quick rundown, U.S. Marines in 2002 or special ops or some sort of elite group of, operators. They're in the mountains of Kandahar. Giant spear comes flying out of the cave, impales one of the soldiers, and then there's 30 seconds of a gunfight where they blast this cryptid giant Nephilim to oblivion. And then they cart the body away, and they all have to sign NDAs, and it's, everybody denies that it happened, which it probably didn't happen. But it's a fun story. It's one of those conspiracy theories that I think in this day and age are pretty innocent. It's kind of an old school one, dealing more with cryptids and stuff like that. And I just thought it would be, initially I thought I'd like to have this cryptid act as a gate. Maybe there's 2 parallel timelines with Crom and his special operators and the Marines and their special operators, and then both of them engaging with this cryptid somehow opens a portal. But I think that got a little too complicated, so I ended up kind of, after reading The Sword of Welleran, which I don't know, I think you seem to be on a really good wavelength with figuring out with the fine art bent with the pinup and stuff like that, of kind of pushing me in a direction that I think helps things to come full circle. But what I really took away from The Sword of Welleran was that it really seemed to me like the U.S. in the 90s and the early 2000s, a pre 9/11 United States, where everything was just excess and everybody's got all this money and statues to our former glory. That's basically The Sword of Welleran. And then what I liked about that story is that as time passed, the savage tribes, the young people would be no, all these old heroes are gone. We can go we gather armies and we can go and take it. But and when eventually they do that, but when they do, that's when like the spirit of these warriors awakens all the men, and they don't know why they're doing it, but they're gathering up their swords. And then the one boy, oh, I have his name written down on here. I can't remember what his name is, but there's one particular, Roland or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it starts with an R. But he grabs the ancient sword of Welleran, which is one of their ancient heroes, and he meets all these men that have gathered in this valley. And that just so happens to be where these 5 armies are, coming down on oh God, I can't even remember the name of the city here. Merimna. I'm glad I really took notes because I can't go off of memory.
No, you're doing really well.
But I don't know, it just seemed to me like I liked that setup. It was like a good flavor for like, okay, well, I guess you can just like straight up adapt the story of the Kandahar giant, which like, loosely kind of the same thing. Like, when after 9/11 happened, there's that famous quote by George W. Bush about how they've awoken a sleeping giant, which is like hearkening back to like Pearl Harbor and stuff like that. It was like very much trying to like gather the spirit of our old warriors or of old America to bring us all into war again. And then I won't go into the politics of any of that, but I think the story of the setting the Giant of Kandahar within that story of America, I don't know. There's something about that really does it for me, and it's similar to some of the stuff in the Crom comic here, where it just seemed like a couple of the stories were like, and here's this ancient city where it'd have this kind of like alt history bent, but it was again like adapted for like a silly barbarian comic. So I figured like there's something to be done with that kind of modern story and Crom the Barbarian. And then, if there's room to flesh this out, like maybe have the flavor of something like the Sword of Welleran, where it's like, all right, well maybe Crom, like the impetus for this story is that Crom and his 5 elite warriors are in the mountains and they're searching. Basically one of their sentinel guards went missing and hasn't reported back for several days, and they come across on the second page here, broken equipment. And let's see here, we have Crom saying halt, and then he picks up a belt, or one of the warriors picks up a belt and mentions that it smells like death, and Crom says, "We take the cave," because they're stopped at the mouth of the cave, and we got like a cool silhouette of them getting in formation here. And then page 3, I have at the top here just like blackness, but one of the descriptions of the giant is that he's got 2 rows of teeth, and I really wanted to incorporate that somehow. So I wanted to do like a silhouette of like a dripping mouth with 2 rows of teeth, and I figured that would kind of, you could play with the black and white and kind of do that. And then cut to a spear impaling one of the soldiers. The giant running at Crom here, who drops his sword. I didn't draw that in too well because I did that after the fact. And what I wanted him to do is like, maybe he dropped his sword out of surprise or necessity, but what he does is he grabs the giant spear and is able to swing himself to kick the knee of the giant and displace it or whatever. The giant skids on the floor. Crom picks up his sword. And as the giant is struggling to get up, Crom and his, remaining cohorts surround him. And then we have, I would like to do it 3 by 3 by 3. And I was playing with a couple of ideas here, but basically every little box is like, the sword slices an arm off. There's an arrow going into the ribs, an axe chopping a leg, a mace cracking the giant in the skull, and then, it just goes round and round until this thing is just butchered, which kind of goes with the Giant of Kandahar story of them firing these, like, machine guns at this giant for 30 seconds and just, like, destroying it. And then at the end, we have Crom slicing the head off, and then the last page I figured would be Crom standing triumphant, kind of hearkening back to the pinup that I had done. Of David holding the head of Goliath, but kind of riffing on that because I think there's a couple of paintings I might be able to riff on for this kind of panel here. But he's holding the head up and he's got his leg on the giant, and then the dialogue will be something like, "Gather what's left of the Sentinel Guard. I'll take the head." And then I got to play with some of that stuff too because I would like to add this element of like, oh, we can't bring this in through the front gates and have the people see it, because I would like to have that flavor of like whatever army he's a part of, like that city or state is so cozy in their, they haven't known war for a long time, that to bring like a giant's head in through the front gate would just cause like panic in the streets kind of thing. So I need to like kind of spruce up the dialogue. I'd like to keep it sparse, but at the same time have whatever's there give it flavor, and that I think that also comes down to like having little narrative boxes on this first page where they're going through the mountains here. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got. And then I also did just a couple of sketches from, I really liked this third story a lot in here. Is this the one? Yeah. I did it. Like, I was looking at this too, just for like, I like the combat stuff. I like the way that the artist handled the figures interacting with each other and the weight and stuff like that, because it really feels like, this guy's leaping, but Crom is ducking, or, like kind of a judo throw. So it's kind of something I would hope to inform something like him grabbing the giant spear and swinging, which I'm not like a fighter or an expert on any of that. So any of my choreography, if somebody were to really look at it, would be like, I don't think he knows how this works.
Yeah,
which is fine.
But once again, it's comic books, and
it's comics. It's got to be a little bit goofy.
I think it has to be a lot more goofy. But let me intersect with what you have up to this point, because I'm so aligned with it. And then I just want to give you like a heads up on my tactics of working with other people, so you're not taken completely by surprise. So in my training in art school, which is at the Maryland Institute College of Art, we played these games, and especially in our critiques of one another's works, on playing the opposite. It's kind of like devil's advocate, but it's way more like, what if you create an opposite of this? What if you invert this? What if and it doesn't mean that redirects the wholeness of the project, but it definitely can take, I found over my years of experience with it, the weaker areas either get dropped out or they end up punching up. This morning, I listened to a audiobook version. I'll put the link in the description on YouTube of the Sword of Welleran, and I had your notes, and so I was like, oh my gosh, this is so. The intersection is the cave for me.
Yeah.
The giant for me is Welleran. And then
interesting. Okay, so the giant being like this old kind of ancient spiritual warrior kind of archetype, you mean?
Well, so the thing about it is, like, in my timeline of Crom, which is what the Crom the Barbarian Collected Revised Edition is all about, is there's a time right out of the gate from Gardner Fox and John Junta's first Crom the Barbarian comic. At the end of that 10-page story, he's now the king of Ophir. And so but it's also somewhere in the middle or beginning of his, it's actually the beginning of his adventures as a young man. So he's left his forestry. Now, I've taken in the story Crom the Warlock of Shardor the angle that he's afraid of leadership, Crom. So at the same time, he has a lot of pressure in order to not fuck up and lose the position of king. I mean, who the hell wouldn't want to be king back in a medieval time where you got food and, all clothing and shelter and guards and all this? So his adventures become kind of these parallels of him trying to become a leader. So with your giant of Kandahar, this is the one inversion, the invert that I want to suggest is, what if you keep it in Afghan, let's say modern times, and the rumor is going up is this this thing from Welleran, giant evil god, just superstition, is up there, and we just need to be careful because we've got to pass this cave in order to get to our next tactical point. And then, of course, even with what you have right now, this is the trick. I would like to, because last episode you and I talked. You shared it was an Alex Nino comic story where a guy from the present falls down a hole and ends up embodying the spirit of Crom the Barbarian.
Yeah.
So the suggestion in playing around for a little bit on it, if you're interested, is they actually encounter Crom the Barbarian as an evil god.
Oh, so like Crom is the Giant of Kandahar.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But
all right. So all right. Let me see if I understand real quick. So
go for it.
Rather than like Crom and his cohorts, like do away with we're looking for the Sentinel guard who's been missing. Correct.
Yes. Get away. Yeah. It's
okay.
Yeah.
So rather than Crom and his cohorts, we're just going to draw straight up Marines.
Yep.
Or Special Forces.
Yep.
Or just adapt the Giant of Kandahar story.
Yep.
And then rather than coming across the giant, they come across like a wildling King Crom who's been secluded in this cave. So maybe he ran from that authority kind of responsibility.
Who knows? But the Crom is of giant stature. So what happens?
Okay.
What happens is now we're playing with this like 1-to-1 ratio. Last night, Drawn Sword and I got together, and we had done some comic exchanges and stuff, but we were just obviously just getting together to chat, and we recorded. I got him a copy of Kothar Barbarian Swordsman by Gardner F. Fox, which is a really great sword and sorcery story. So anyhow. His big critique was, I don't understand why Gardner Fox thought it was necessary to put Kothar in an alien world, right? And this has come up a lot.
Yeah,
that we're not dealing with a past Earth here state. It's off-world kind of thing. So the the idea that we are going to have this portal where two worlds are going to intersect for a time period, and it's a conspiracy theory type UFO type of thing. The lead in, and this is what I really pulled from the audiobook version that I listened to this morning, A Sword of Welleran by Lord Dunsany.
Email that to me too, because I'd love to throw that on as
they did. This one channel did. I think a lot of them, a lot of those, and done really well with sound effects and good voices and everything. But here's the thing:
the dramatization.
Here's the thing: is it's almost like we need one more page added before your page one. That is this. It's this chatting type of thing where there's that one guy in the unit that's so deep into the local mythology and legends that he's telling it like the sort of oh dude. You know how?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know
I know
that
exactly what you're talking about?
We're in the Fertile Crescent, like the Assyrians fought the
Oh,
such,
man.
so and so and so. Do you know Alexander the Great marched right down through that valley with freaking woolly mammoths armored for his invasion of India? Like he has that kind of, but it obviously
But
has
it's like
that.
a framing device. It's so funny you mention this. I've been reading this comic here, Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons.
Yeah.
And basically it's Godzilla in pirate times.
Yeah.
And the framing device is this kind of scurvy pirate, and he's been captured by Great Britain, and he's got a tale to tell about Monster Island.
Yeah.
And that's like the crux of this like 5, issue kind of thing. But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Not at all.
It's such a coincidence that you mentioned something like
Well,
that. But
I think it's an old
something to draw from.
It's an old vehicle in order to get people from your everyday life to fantasy land. That's a very hard mechanism. I think even more challenging nowadays because so many people come up with, and we were talking about the reality of baggage. These fight sequences aren't as structured as what the fuck? Like, why would I spend any kind of sense of, and I have martial arts training, but why would I lean so much more into that other than jumping off of my martial arts training and making it just completely bonkers to make it more fantastic? But the thing about the thing about it is the ending, obviously, we would have to invert this because killing him is not the most important thing in this. It's more like we've met something, we've challenged it with our weaponry, we've matched him or it. It doesn't speak, it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's giant than us, but and then what does end up happening is maybe there's a hallucination where they all end up like literally standing around what they thought happened, but it's just rocks and an old gas can and a tire, but they all all experienced it. And that's always the key with.
Or they committed some horrible war crime by accident.
Don't know. But the story still, because I would like to see you be able to carry what you picked up in weight from the Giants of Kandahar. What is it, Kandahar? Yeah, Kandahar. Where there's a question there. There's a question inside that mythy, legendy trope, conspiracy, where it's part fun, but then it's part like, well, maybe that's just a cover up for them doing fucked up shit.
Yeah, sure. Okay, all right. So let's map this out here. So I think I like this idea too of adding a page before this of maybe they're in, a Chinook or something, and this guy, like the beginning of Predator when Shane Black won't shut up, but instead of telling jokes, it's, Alexander the Great and the Mammoths marched right through here, and he's going into the Nephilim and all this. It just, as he keeps talking, maybe it gets more crazy, and eventually that page maybe ends.
What if it is in a?
All right,
what if it's inside a Hummer? It's just inside a Hummer.
Oh, okay. And then Hummer's better. Yeah.
Where they're in a Hummer, and then that's page 1, and then page 2 they're dropped off.
Yeah.
So they're now dropped off, and then
they're dropped off, or they encounter some sort of, they can't take the Hummer any further, so they have to go by foot or whatever. So I like this idea that they're kind of having to shed, some sort of protection to keep going, I don't know if that's a thread that could be followed up, as the terrain gets more treacherous. It's all right, well, we're carrying too much weight. We're going to come back this way anyway. Let's leave a couple of things here and just bring the essentials maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about that too much.
I would go less into something like it's a reconnoiter position and it's just it's long. You know how they have those, like, it's just one guy can follow one guy around the bend, the bend of a mountainside. But that bend is going to be the encounter on that. But here, let me just give me 1 second. Marched with armored woolly mammoths. Yeah. So and this is not written in stone yet. So this is just, like I said, I want to invert your story element by element.
Yeah,
yep,
no, I'm liking.
And then we can start retrieving stuff and then obviously pushing it into a thing. So the third page would be the encounter, but it's more like questioning, like a what the fuck kind of moment. So they're all locked and loaded. They're all trying to take position, but they only can be side by side. Two are in front of you know what I mean? And they're hearing something.
Yeah.
There's just such and such and everything going on. And then, because I think we can even maybe keep it at 6 now. So you're 3. Okay, so then 4 would be, 4 and 5 would, let's see, is encounter with Giant. And the thing is that this is what I really want to see happen, is the first thing, like on page, the first thing that happens is the giant running out with a spear or sword or whatever it is screams Crom.
Okay, yeah. So you got some sort of connection.
Yeah, and so then it ends up just being 2 pages of combat. But then, like I said, the last page would be, and I'm trying to just keep us at 6 pages, is the last page would be the like another what the fuck just happened moment, which could be a similar type of composition to as if they have decapitated the giant, but they're holding like a gas can, and there's a couple of tires or an old rug or something. It's just they're all just kind of standing around. Because the other thing too, Jason, that I don't want to lose is your absurd humor. So that I think you're the way you make lines and marks in your illustration comic books. There's a humorous element that aligns with it. Like I would never think of you as a serious guy in making marks. You're way more playful, and I think very much as even this comes off as historically being referenced. There's a humor to it. It just
there's a silliness. There's an irreverence to taking something so high culture and being like, oh no, I'm going to steal this and put it on the cover of a public domain barbarian.
right. And then
absolutely.
And then so they're all standing around, and then there's that one guy who basically brings it back and says,
like maybe he won't let go of what just happened, and he's trying to figure out a way to explain away the reality of them holding the gas can.
I think the last thing said would be something like, like, yo, we just, ran into the, dark God.
Yeah, like a world between worlds, or this is some
Crom,
Black Lodge shit or something like that.
yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
he's gone from like, this region slash, Alexander the Great, which is historic in value, to
Yeah.
comic book character.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But everybody standing around is just dumbfounded. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, what did we
Like
just?
it's almost the spell came over them and then the spell broke,
Yes.
but this guy, yeah, okay. So I like this idea that again, like, because now we're going back into that like David Lynch, like Twin Peaks, Black Lodge, like all of a sudden we're in the woods and there's these owls, but they're aliens, but they're also owls, or we're in this weird checkered room with a infinite red curtain kind of thing, and is it a dream or is this an actual place kind of thing? Yeah, there's I might have to like rewatch a couple of things or
Sure,
get really into
sure,
David Lynch in the next couple of weeks or something. But I think
sure.
I could definitely draw some sort of parallel and get some sort of conclusion to it. Because I like the idea that as they're like again, like having them have a reason to leave the Humvee. Like it's like I like this idea of them having to shed that layer of protection, like a literal hard metal shell that could take, gunfire from every which direction or can survive an IED or something like that. They're getting either dropped off or the terrain's too rough or they have to go by foot because their mission requires them to be stealthy or something. But as they're going by foot, that's what is allowing them to enter this realm that they wouldn't otherwise be able to enter with that layer of protection. I
Yep.
feel like that could be like a decent theme, but it's like with the same way how like the soldiers are, this guy's trying to hang on to the, no, this really happened, and the other soldiers are like, oh, actually, no, I don't know what happened, but we definitely did not encounter a giant kind of thing. Um, like that, like it's that layer of protection of your mind that you have to like
Yep.
tell yourself, well, this happened this way, because otherwise, if I tell myself it happened this other way, that's going to completely shatter this narrative I've given myself, and it means all kinds of consequential things for my identity, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Keep your shit together.
yeah, yeah. I think thematically there's a through line there that works like a lot better than what I got here, which is just like this happens and this happens and this happens, like a straight up adaptation of it, essentially.
Yes, but I still think you can still lean into a lot of
Yeah.
the elements that you've pulled, and I
Oh,
think,
for sure.
like I said, and I think my inverted version is still expanded. It's ballooned out, and it'll need to be cut down.
Yeah.
It'll need to be cut down because 6 pages is like, so when you do have those, because Jason, I get the same thing going through my making of something where it's like, oh, I want people to know
Yeah.
this thing, but it either disconnects or derails, and then people got to
Yeah.
hop back on. But if there are, let's say, graphic visual elements that can be put in there that are,
Yeah, that just
Lynchian,
suggests them essentially. Yeah.
Lynchian in their visual weight, then I think that's the good thing. But the majority of this is really soldiers doing soldier things during war and encountering
Yeah.
not only another culture's history, but
Sure.
another world possibly has also engaged with them, and there's no way,
Yeah.
other than all of them agreeing to actually talk about it, that it's going to be ever really known or proven.
Yeah, yeah, because there's they don't bring anything back. Again, like I like the idea of them holding, clay pots or some sort of artifacts from the past rather than like, oh, I thought I was holding this head, but it's like, you know, it could be anything. It could be any sort of
Yeah.
archaeological kind of like thing that's
Or
like
trash.
to them is probably Yeah, or trash, or
just trash. Like people,
absolutely.
Like opium dealers, that are using that path to, they rest the night, and there's just, Pepsi 2-liter
They're
Pepsi bottles,
refuse, essentially. Yeah.
as much as you can respect another's culture, they're not perfect to the point where they don't do
Sure.
stupid, ignorant things. That
we all kind of have that commonality, no matter where you go.
Like trashing your own land, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I think we have. I'm going to scan this just so you have my version.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and then I do have kind of some, like, one thing I'm not hammered on is, like, I know I've already established this Alexander the Great and then the dark god Crom.
Yeah.
But I want to bring the one thing I love the most about Sword of Welleran is the colorful texture of his language, which guys like H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, that's the thing that they connected with first, because the visual that it's giving you is just it's unimaginable, unobtainable by reality standards. But if I close my eyes and stand there and keep muttering it over and over in my head, it's real, it's believable. And then there's this.
Yeah.
Then there's I wrote this down too, which was, I think one of the most powerful things in writing, but I think more specifically when it came to early pulp, let's say horror stories, or things that had like cosmic horror elements in there, is the mystery of whatever it is, place, person, thing, unexplainable. But the constant making it is so ephemeral that you want it to be true.
Yeah. You're talking like kind of like something that you can kind of just get glimpses of, but you never really see like the true form of.
Correct.
Kind of thing.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, there's definitely like, because there's a lot of things like that, I think in real life too, where it's just like things that are just beyond your understanding, and I think that could definitely play really into something like this. And, I guess it's, for sure. Yeah, I get you.
So, and then pages 4 and 5 could be all of the darkness of the cave. So a lot of this could be happening in that's because they all have to get off the ledge. They can't create any kind of protective formation by being like this. They've got to enter. They have to now go into this cave that somebody's
you got to isolate it somehow too.
I think. So now you're dealing with flashlights and getting just so inside the cave that you no longer have any of the natural light. And so you could even have 4 or 5 to maybe even like the 6th page, part of the 6th page, where it's so dense with darkness.
Let me. I like where you're going with the darkness here. Let me hit you with this. What if, like, as they're going deeper into this cave, that's, I like having them isolated, having them separated. But what if the source of light is just this unknown gunfire, somebody's muzzle flash, and then that triggers everybody to start firing? We catch glimpses of giant King Crom, just taking bullets and just keep on coming, like he's not stopping.
Right.
But then as one of these soldiers regains composure and is able to get everybody to stop firing, maybe one of their flashlights start working again.
Yes.
And they realize they've friendly fired one of their own.
No, it doesn't have to go that far. I think what it does is they basically...
Nothing that far?
No, I think what it should do is just go exactly what we had before, and they were fighting trash. They were fighting amongst themselves in This
I'm
guy
going too dark with it. I got to lean more in the absurd humor for the conclusion.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, it's because this guy hasn't shut the fuck up about the Alexander the Great and whatever it is, like all the things that he's going to be colorfully yammering about until they have that engagement. And then the last thing that he says is, oh, wow, yo, we just ran into Crom. And everybody's like, something happened, but I'm not going to be the one that says it happened.
Yeah. I'm not going to be court-martialed for this and put in,
straight
have my head examined, demoted, and
Yeah.
all the bad things that can happen to you if you stick to a story like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Yeah, awesome. We got a good structure here. I like this a lot. Yeah.
All right. Good. So let me close us off to this morning. I would have to say, I have maybe like a dozen more marks to make, and it's always just like the last. But this is my cover for Crom the Barbarian.
I love those letters, man. I like how they're all standing on them and stuff, carved in the stone.
Yeah. So things really, I feel, went my way. So I have been working on the last couple of days the layout of the book. I have probably 90% of the book laid out. But now I have to do all the filler pages, where there's the indicia and table of contents, and there's a lot. But I have all of tomorrow to put all of my efforts into it. I'm going to take Monday to just give myself another proofread. But at the end of Monday, I want to have copies, everybody's virgin covers ready for print. And there'll be artist proofs that I'll then have mailed out to, drop ship from Lulu to everybody. And then once everybody starts getting them, I told Drawn Sword this. I'm actually meeting with David Molina in the next 15 minutes on there. So I'm telling everybody the same thing, which is as soon as you get to it and you can give the time, of course, enjoy it. But I also, I require your feedback in a very structural critique and question, because I'm not worried about rushing a product to market. I'd love to see this thing go into release because I'm not doing a Kickstarter, but it'll be for sale, and I as soon as possible, like July. But I'm not holding myself to it because I want the product to not only be something I'm proud of, but obviously the guest artists that I have asked to come on board, yourself being one of them, Jason, and you feeling proud, that you devoted yourself to your art, and now it's on something that you can say,
absolutely,
I'm good. So, and like I said, one of the biggest things I miss about art school and have since graduating in 1992 has been the art critiques, and I really do enjoy. I really do enjoy spending time with you because I feel like I get that sense of banter. So as well as
I agree. This has been very productive. I mean, I kind of just took what I had and laid it down, and I love this idea of inverting it. And man, what if we took this structure and did this with it? And it definitely opened up I don't know, it kind of freed up that tunnel vision. It's like we found another path in the tunnel.
And it's also why I truly believe, especially with something as complex as comic books, there should be a collaboration on some level. Whether you can hire an editor or you can just get somebody who just might be a little bit more, deeper in that kind of sense of making the process, I'm totally stuck on that. Of course I do Turbo Pit Fighter, another podcast with Jake Jacobs, and he pencils and and I do the inking, but we spend every Sunday,
going back and forth. Yeah. You guys have great conversations together, and you come to a lot of interesting conclusions, I think, that end up benefiting your overall story.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is tough to just kind of work on that stuff. Just kind of isolated, it's, you're only open to one perspective, but as soon as you get somebody else to read it and they ask you well, why this?
Right.
you know?
Right.
Which, going back to like the last time we talked, I was rewatching that video and I realized I like never answered your initial question. I just kind of danced around it, but like why I didn't push Gut and Ghost to go further into the weird is like, I'd done like, some craft shows where I had the artwork shown off and I'd cornered basically several people that were just like foolish enough to wander into my web and have me like read them what I had so far. And when I get to like pages 3, 4, and 5, that's like, with the Brain Lord and the three-legged man, that's when like I could see it on their face. They're just desperately looking for an escape. Or
That's
they were very excited and wanted more. So it was very much like one or the other. So I figured like, for me, the best way to kind of coalesce those things is be like, all right, we took it this far, let's bring it back down to earth, and then coalesce all these bizarre elements at the very end kind of thing. So it is like a sense of like, I think you're right, trying to guard against, emotionally feeling rejected or whatever,
right.
but also like, I
Right.
do want as many people as possible to read this, and when you get to this point, there's going to be a certain number of people that are turned off by it and put it down and never pick up again. But there might be a certain number of people that are turned off by it, but curious enough to keep going. And then I think the pleasant surprise is finding out, oh no, he did figure out how to incorporate this bizarre element into where we started. And now we're back where we started, but this thing has changed because of it kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's kind of the short answer of what I spent 45 minutes dancing around the last
Now,
time.
I did take the cornering, somebody being cornered and you passionately taking the time to do, because the question was to get you to, as best you can, explain your process for how far are you willing to go away from the origins of your inspiration and your idea to make it marketable. And I think it's one of these, because of social media and wanting to get just likes, and all I have to do is do something with Batman, and then everybody who loves Batman's gonna be, what I mean?
Like something that's already recognizable. Yeah.
But if you're not, like, I am not into any of that stuff, the superhero stuff, which is the dominant, anytime you say comic books, people are like, oh wow,
that's
and then I hand them Crom the Barbarian, and they start flipping through, and they're like, I don't understand. Where's the cape?
Where's the cape?
I don't get it. And it's like, but my thing has always been like, not really. I can't say always been, because there has been that like disappointment. It's like, shit, man, this place thing. But I've also come so far that my goal is to just get like a couple of hundred people. And that's big to say, but get a couple hundred people gathered around Crom the Barbarian as a community, and it builds something, but community first, not product, not
for sure.
Sales,
well, I think that's the only way to do it.
Yes.
Well, that's how you attract more artists that are like maybe want to take a shot at another anthology story, or be like, oh, I got this idea for a pinup. It's crowdsourcing all of that without having anybody putting anything other than their time and their want to do that.
Exactly.
Which is, I think, the brilliant thing about getting a public domain character like Crom, that you can do anything you want with, and then having this framework of, oh, it's magic, it's sword sorcery, it's alternate history. There's like any amount of things you can do with this kind of framework that you're given here.
Right.
Which is like, I'm 100% on board. Like, I enjoy like people that do like, bootleg, superhero comics and stuff. Mostly because like the reason why I don't read those anymore is because they're just like, I don't, they're trying to do too much with it and they end up not doing anything with it. Like, I don't need to read, back in the day it was like, oh, we have this event that's going across 4 different Batman titles and you have to get Shadow of the Bat and Legends of the Dark Knight and all this stuff to get it. And it's just tell me a Batman story. The archetypes are so simple. I can't imagine that there's not a story that hasn't been told already. So it's like everything just feels like a retread. So really the only freshness you can get is just by taking the simplicity of that framework, giving somebody who might have a unique artistic vision for it, and just keeping it simple, something like that.
I
But with like Crom, it's like, again, there's like literally, and you can get as complicated. You don't have to make it a big event, but you can make it, you can do all, it seems like it's a little bit more open
yeah.
than just like, well, Batman has to have the belt, he has to have this, he has to have that, where it's like Crom, it's like, just think of Barbarian, and then anybody can conjure up, their characteristics of why that would work for, this particular character or story or whatever.
Well,
Which is, again, like why I pivoted back to David and Goliath. And
Sure.
stuff like
Sure. No, that's great. So with that being said, I
Yeah.
don't have anything else to say, but we want to get these people back to reading comics, making them if they choose. Jason, do you have anything on the outs that you want to leave these people?
Well, I just got a bunch of Gut and Ghost printed up from the printer here.
Oh,
A big
yeah.
box of them.
Oh, yeah.
Let me put those right
that's
there.
great.
I got about
man.
60 of them. I'm currently separating some that I'm going to have 2 going to you and Jake.
Thank you.
A couple others. I got one going to Brandon Graham, and the other one going to Brian Moss, and
that's great.
probably other people I can think of. I got to separate some out for the local comic book stores, and then I'm hoping, this is going up in the future, but on Monday, what is the date on Monday? Today's the 25th, I think. 26th, 27th. Hoping on Monday, on the 27th of May, I'll have them up on my Shopify for purchase, and we'll see what we can do with them. I'm excited about it. They came out really good.
They did.
I'm going to draw on the back of them. I got a nice silver marker, so every single one of them will have a unique doodle on the back of them. I don't know what I will do yet, but I've been furiously taking notes of ideas for things I can doodle. And that's pretty much the only thing that I got going on right now that's really big.
Awesome.
I just finished a layout for a fan art Jason X zine where, similar to your idea of community, there's been a big community kind of rallying around like cartoonist kayfabe and the, kind of the unfortunate circumstances that, that podcast and, Ed Piskor was in. But there's been a big community rallying around that. And, one of the things we did is we all did fan art of Jason X, and I put together a zine, and everybody's got their own variant cover. I kind of stole that idea from you. And I just emailed back those pages to everybody last night to print at their own discretion. But
cool.
That was the other big thing going on. But the KFam Sundays Instagram page would be one to check out if you want more stuff to do.
Yeah, like it's always something out there to do. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's really great. But all right, well, Jason, I look forward to our next getting together. For our yet to be titled, which I think that we'll save for the next episode, is what the title of this comic story is. I had a great time, and like I said, yes,
me too.
Look forward to it. So you take care now.
I'm excited to jot and take notes and draw some of this stuff. So yeah, good talking to you, Kurt.
All right, we'll see you.